At this point, we're just pulling into Field, which is a town that sits just on the western edge of the Continental Divide. Now, Field was originally just a workers' camp for the Canadian Pacific to accommodate the additional need for locomotives on the Big Hill, or switching them out for these Selkirk locomotives that would take the consist west and over the Rogers Pass where we just came. And I actually found this out after the trip, but those same Selkirk locomotives were actually the biggest class of steam engine ever built in Canada. And those Selkirks were dubbed the King of the Rockies for their pulling power. And it is kind of sad, but the only remaining evidence of their existence here today is the water tower, still standing above town. So we are currently stopped in the Field to wait for 2 freight trains, which is actually fantastic news because my camera battery is almost dead. There's so many fantastic shots today. Honestly feels like committing a crime. The fact that I know I'm going to have to delete some of them and some of them are not going to make the final cut for this video. Just such a gorgeous route. The Field is a really cool spot. It's a town with a population year-round of only 200 people and completely dominated by the towering presence of Mount Stephen looming over top of it. The town of Field is named after Cyrus Field, who was an oil tycoon, huge investor at the time of the railway's completion. And they promised to name the town after him, Field after Cyrus Field, on hopes that he would put some money into the town and invest and turn it into a metropolis. Well, he never gave them a single penny, and they were too lazy to change the name, so it still stands, Field, BC, named after Cyrus Field. And the current station, which hasn't seen a passenger train since 1990, is actually the former location of the Mount Stephen House Railway Hotel, and it was one of the original 5 railway hotels that the Canadian Pacific built along their main line to lure travelers west. Now, as cool as all that is, the best part and one of the highlights of the trip is in fact the spiral tunnels, and they're coming up in about 20 minutes. Out of Field, we begin immediately climbing onto a steep grade, and you can really hear the diesel engines working here. And as much as today's grade is steep, it absolutely pales in comparison to the Big Hill. The Big Hill was the most difficult piece of railway engineering in the entire country. To complete the route as quickly as possible, blasting lengthy tunnels were rarely opted for, and instead, here specifically, a temporary line at a 4.5% grade was built over the Big Hill, which was double the legally allowed grade for the time. I mean, the first train to ever come down this pass ran away off the hill and would land in the Kicking Horse River below, killing the entire crew aboard. And pretty much any trains that exceeded 8 miles an hour here were pretty much a guaranteed accident. And so by 1906, the Canadian Pacific would hire Swiss engineers to blast 2 tunnels driven in 3/4 length circles that would then switch back over each other to help lengthen the track and cut the grade down in half to the legally required 2.2% for the time. And we were about to go through the first. The first is the lower tunnel, running 800 meters through the base of Mount Ogden before emerging and crossing over itself. And if this was a peak season train, I literally would have been traveling on top of other passengers further back on the consist, as you see here. Now, from this point, we'll cross over the Kicking Horse River and enter the upper tunnel, which spans 1 kilometer through the base of Cathedral Mountain. And after a few minutes of darkness, we would emerge out of Cathedral Mountain, making a straight line for the Continental Divide at over 5,300 feet of elevation, where we will level out just outside of Wapta Lake, and the grade will return to a flat 0%. I do think that it is a borderline crime that Parks Canada has never cut down the trees at the highway's spiral tunnel viewpoint for any Canadians to appreciate one of the most brilliant solutions in railway history. But luckily for you, I have some photos of back when you could. Now, despite the fact that I get to take this all in from a first-class luxury train, even with modern locomotives and air brakes, accidents have not been completely eliminated. And in February of 2019, a 112-car grain train heading down the tunnels derailed just outside of the upper tunnel and would then plunge into the Kicking Horse River below, taking the entire crew with it. It is a very dark and stark reminder of all the innovation and all the sacrifices that have gone in to me being able to take this in and experience it from a first-class luxury train, which I am so thankful for.